My wife cheated on me with our ugly neighbor while I worked hard for our future. I was breaking my back to give us a good life, but she was sneaking around with the one man I never saw as a threat. When I found out, I made sure she'd regret every second of it. I always thought I had a great marriage. My wife, Lisa, and I had been together for 6 years, and while things weren't always perfect, I believed we had a solid foundation. I worked long hours as a construction supervisor, sometimes pulling double shifts to save up for a better future. Lisa, on the other hand, stayed at home. She had a part-time remote job, but for the most part, I was the sole provider. I never minded that. I loved taking care of her. I wanted to give her the best life possible. I thought she appreciated my hard work, but I was wrong. It started with little things. She stopped texting me during the day. When I came home, she seemed distant, barely looking up from her phone. She wasn't affectionate like she used to be, and our intimate life had dwindled to nothing. At first, I chalked it up to stress. Maybe she was feeling lonely with me working so much. I even thought about taking time off to plan a trip, just the two of us, to rekindle our spark. Then, I noticed the way she acted around our neighbor, Rick. Rick was a divorced guy in his late 40s, out of shape, balding, and honestly, just unpleasant. He had lived next door for years, and I had never paid much attention to him. He was always loitering outside, drinking cheap beer in his stained tank tops, and making crude jokes that Lisa used to roll her eyes at. So, imagine my shock when I started noticing Lisa laughing at his jokes. One day, I came home early from work, and I saw them standing close on our porch, talking. I saw the way Rick looked at her, like he had some secret knowledge. And the way she smiled at him, it wasn't the polite, dismissive smile she used to give. It was something more. A sinking feeling hit my gut, but I pushed it away. No way, not with him. But the signs kept coming. Lisa started dressing up more, even though she barely left the house. She took extra care with her makeup and perfume, even when she was just relaxing at home. One evening, as I was heading to bed, I noticed her phone screen light up with a message. Tonight? I didn't recognize the number, but I knew in my gut who it was. My heart started pounding. My hands shook. I wanted to grab her phone and demand answers, but I stopped myself. If she was cheating, I needed proof. So, I made a plan. After that fateful evening when I saw the mysterious message on her phone, I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. I spent the next few days meticulously planning how to get the undeniable proof I needed. I couldn't confront Lisa without evidence. She might just dismiss my suspicions as paranoia. I needed to catch them red-handed. I began by quietly monitoring her behavior. Every time she received a text or phone call, I took mental notes. I set up a routine that would let me leave the house a little earlier than usual. My plan was simple. Create an opportunity when I could be away while keeping a close eye on our surroundings. I installed a discreet camera on the porch, one that I had secretly bought online, hoping it would capture anything unusual. I told myself it was for security, a precaution for the sake of our home, but deep down, I knew why I really needed it. That night, I left work a bit early. My heart pounded as I drove home, anxiety and dread swirling in my stomach. I parked a little further away, watching the house from a distance. When I finally saw Lisa exit the front door around 9 p.m., my heart sank further. She was dressed nicely, a stark contrast to the casual attire I usually saw her in. I saw her pause for a moment, as if checking her phone again, before stepping toward the neighbor's side of the house. My pulse raced as I hurried back to my car, barely daring to breathe. From my vantage point, I saw Rick waiting by his door, illuminated by a dim porch light. Lisa approached him with a nervous smile, and they exchanged a few whispered words before Rick took her arm and led her inside. I couldn't hear their conversation, but the way they moved, so intimately familiar and secretive, told me all I needed to know. I remained hidden in my car, recording every detail. Every moment felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I recorded the images on my phone as evidence, trying to stay calm while my mind screamed betrayal. My heart ached with the realization that the woman I had worked so hard to support was willingly choosing Rick over me. The neighbor, the ugly, unkempt neighbor who I had never considered a threat, was now the focal point of her affection. Time dragged on as I sat there, paralyzed by a mix of anger, sorrow, and disbelief. I could see them through the window, Lisa laughing, Rick gently brushing her hair back as she spoke. It was a scene I never imagined witnessing. The camera on the porch captured the moment too, later providing me with clear images of their secret rendezvous. I waited until I was absolutely sure they were alone. When Rick closed the door behind them, I felt a bitter triumph mixed with an overwhelming sadness. I knew that confronting them in that moment would only lead to more chaos, so I decided to let the evidence speak for itself. I carefully saved every photo and video clip, securing them on my computer as my insurance policy against any future denials. That night, as I sat alone in the dark, I couldn't help but replay the events in my mind. Every detail. The way Lisa's smile had seemed forced when she thought I wasn't watching, the way Rick had pulled her closer as if protecting a secret, they all piled up, confirming what I had long feared. I felt betrayed, not only by her infidelity but also by the realization that all my hard work and sacrifices had been in vain if she could so easily throw it all away for a fling with a man I never deemed attractive. I wrestled with my emotions until dawn. I felt both anger and a profound sadness that cut deep. I had built our future on the promise of loyalty and mutual respect, and now that future was tarnished by deceit. The evidence was undeniable, and I knew I had to make a choice, either confront her immediately and risk everything or use this evidence as the foundation for a cold, calculated decision about our future. That night, with the images burned into my memory, I resolved that I wouldn't let her betrayal continue to dictate my life. I would confront her, not with rage, but with the cold, hard truth that our marriage was irreparably broken. And so, I began to prepare for the confrontation that would change everything. After a sleepless night spent replaying every incriminating detail on my phone, I finally knew I couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. The evidence was undeniable, and I had to confront Lisa, my wife, with the truth. I waited for her to return home after a long day at work, rehearsing the conversation in my head, each word laced with betrayal and heartbreak. As the clock neared 8 p.m., I heard the familiar creak of the front door. Lisa entered the living room casually, as if nothing was wrong, completely unaware of the storm brewing. I stood up, heart pounding, and met her gaze with a steely determination. "Lisa, we need to talk," I said, my voice quiet but firm. Her eyes widened in confusion. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep her tone light. But I could sense the tension in the air. I motioned toward the coffee table where I had meticulously laid out every piece of evidence, photos of Lisa laughing and sharing intimate moments with Rick, our neighbor, along with screenshots of texts that left no room for doubt. "I found these," I stated, placing my phone down with a trembling hand. For a long, agonizing moment, she stared at the images, her face draining of color. How did you get these?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper, a mix of shock and fear painting her features. "I set up a discreet camera on the porch," I replied, each word heavy with the weight of my pain. "I know about your secret rendezvous with Rick, Lisa. I know how long this has been going on." Her eyes welled up with tears as she looked away, trying to shield herself from the truth. I didn't want you to find out like this," she managed, her tone desperate and pleading. "Find out?" I snapped, bitterness cracking through my voice. "I've been working my fingers to the bone, sacrificing every ounce of energy to build a future for us, and while I'm out here hustling, you've been laughing and scheming with Rick, of all people. I never thought our ugly neighbor could be the one to take advantage of our life together." She took a step backward, her voice trembling as she attempted to explain. "It wasn't like that, I swear. I felt lonely, neglected even, and Rick, he was there. I know it was wrong, but I needed someone who noticed me." "Neglected?" I repeated bitterly. "I'm the one putting in long hours, ensuring we have everything we need, and you choose to seek comfort in someone you clearly deem inferior. I trusted you, Lisa, with every part of me. And now, you've thrown it all away with a cheap thrill." The room fell into a suffocating silence, the evidence laid bare between us. Lisa's eyes, now glistening with regret, searched mine for some semblance of forgiveness. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered, voice choked with remorse. "Then why?" I demanded, my heart aching with betrayal. "Why risk everything for a moment's pleasure with someone you dismissively call our neighbor? I believed in our future, in the promises we made to each other. And you've shattered that trust." She tried to speak, but the words faltered on her tongue. I took a steadying breath, trying to control the storm of emotions inside me. "I can't keep living like this," I continued slowly, the finality in my tone unmistakable. "Every time I see your smile in those photos, every message reminding me of your infidelity, I realize our marriage isn't what it used to be. I deserve to be with someone who respects and values me." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pleaded, "Please, give me another chance. I was lonely, and I made a mistake." I shook my head, the pain of disappointment too heavy to bear any longer. "I'm tired of your excuses, Lisa. I've given everything to make us work, but I can't keep sacrificing my dignity. I can't be with someone who chooses betrayal over commitment." Silence enveloped the room as I turned away, knowing that my decision was irrevocable. "I'm ending our marriage," I said, my voice resolute. "I can't continue living in this lie. I hope one day you understand the gravity of what you've lost." As I walked out that door, leaving behind the life I'd built and the woman I once loved, a profound sense of sorrow mingled with relief. I knew the road ahead would be challenging, but it was a necessary path toward reclaiming my self-worth and building a future free from betrayal. After that fateful confrontation, the weight of betrayal and heartbreak began to slowly lift from my shoulders, replaced by a cold, determined resolve. I spent the next few days in a haze of disbelief and sorrow, trying to process the magnitude of what had just transpired. I had caught every detail, every stolen glance and secret text, in stark evidence of Lisa's infidelity with Rick, our ugly neighbor. The images and messages, once a burning pain in my chest, now served as undeniable proof that our marriage had reached its breaking point. In the immediate aftermath, I avoided Lisa as much as possible. I couldn't face her tearful apologies or her desperate attempts to justify her actions. Instead, I locked myself away in our home, a home I had built with love and hard work, pondering the future I desperately needed to reclaim. I realized that while I had dedicated countless hours to supporting us, my trust had been so utterly betrayed that I no longer felt safe or respected. Every memory of our past, once cherished, now seemed tainted by her deception. Determined to take control of my life once again, I began making practical decisions to separate myself from the toxic environment we had created. First, I contacted a trusted attorney who specialized in family law. Sitting across from her in a small, sunlit office, I recounted every painful detail, from the sneaky texts to the secret rendezvous captured on camera. With calm professionalism, she assured me that I had every right to move forward without compromise, and that I would be protected throughout the divorce proceedings. Her words provided a sliver of hope and clarity in the midst of my overwhelming emotions. The process of disentangling our lives was anything but easy. I had to sort through years of shared memories, joint accounts, and investments into a pile of painful decisions. Yet, each step away from Lisa and the betrayal felt like reclaiming a part of myself that I had long neglected. I spent late nights reviewing documents and planning for a future where I could rebuild my sense of self and regain the trust I had once placed in our union. Every small victory, be it finalizing a legal agreement or reclaiming personal items that held sentimental value, was a step toward my new beginning. One particularly vivid memory still haunts me. The night I sat alone in our living room, replaying the evidence on my phone, tears streaming down my face. In that moment, the truth crystallized: my hard work, my dedication, and my unwavering commitment had been met with nothing but betrayal. But that night also marked the turning point. I realized that no amount of regret or sorrow could change what had happened. Instead, I had to harness that pain as fuel for change. I started to reconnect with old friends and family members who had always supported me. Their encouragement reminded me that I wasn't alone, that I was valued, and that I deserved better. Slowly, I began to rebuild my confidence. I even enrolled in a few self-improvement workshops and therapy sessions, learning how to process my emotions and channel them into personal growth. Today, as I reflect on the painful journey, I can see that every moment of betrayal was a catalyst for my transformation. I've found a renewed sense of purpose, a clear understanding that hard work should never come at the expense of self-respect. I've learned that it's not just about providing for someone financially, it's about mutual love, trust, and respect. My life is now centered around healing, growth, and the pursuit of happiness on my own terms. In the end, Lisa's betrayal with Rick wasn't just an end to our marriage. It was the beginning of my journey toward rediscovering who I truly am. And though the scars may always be there, I now wear them as a testament to my strength, my resilience, and the fact that I can, and will, move forward.